How we doing, people? Hope you are well. Welcome back to the show. It's been a fantastic weekend, and what a day yesterday was. Myself and Lee thought we would have a little chat about it and bring on Sharoy. Sharoy, what you doing, bruv?
I cannot complain. Thank you for my debut on the channel. What a day to be here as well.
Listen, it's probably one of the better times to come on and speak to us, mate. Over the last couple, there's been some good times and bad times, and this is definitely a good time. Listen, people, make sure you do us a favor and smash the like on this and subscribe if you haven't already. Super Kevin Cameron is going to be joining us very shortly. He's on the hybrid squad at the moment, just finishing up, so he's going to come and join us as well. Yesterday, I mean, listen, we just need to get straight into it. It was unbelievable, and I must admit, it was a game that I wish I would have been at. I was obviously doing the AFTV watch along, and I thought that it was going to be a lot more nervous than it was, just because it was a North London derby. I'd say my nerves were kind of 6 or 7 out of 10, not really like a 10 or 11 as it's been in the last couple of years. But I think most Arsenal fans were quietly confident that if we played like we have been, then we'd have a chance. But wow, what a first half. Lee and I had a bit of a chat. But Sharoy, it'd be great to get your thoughts first of all, man. And I think when you look at the team news, there was potential, not shocks, but surprises as far as Tottenham are concerned, with Pape Mate Sarr starting in midfield, no Bissouma, no Perisic, Ryan Sessegnon playing. And I just felt, Sharoy, that perhaps Arsenal could get at that Tottenham midfield. And that first half display, bro, was just outstanding. What did you make of it, Sharoy?
It seems like something that all the fans were alert to, but Antonio Conte wasn't. All the Spurs previews that I did, everything that we discussed, not just from the Arsenal fans end, but also the Tottenham fans end, was if we get overrun in midfield, we're in trouble. And if we don't cope with your width, we're in trouble. And they all thought Perisic was going to start, and they all thought they'd probably have to pack out their midfield with Bissouma to learn from what happened at the Emirates. And he just didn't do it. So the first half, realistically, when I looked at those team sheets and I looked at our form compared to theirs, it wasn't a surprise, but it was still beautiful to see. Because if you're trying to write a script for that game, you go away to Tottenham. Not only do you beat them, but you hold them at range for the entire 12 rounds. You keep a clean sheet. You extend your lead at the top. You seriously dent their Champions League hopes. What are we 14 ahead of them now?
Yep.
14, yeah, there's a song about that, sure.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're going to give us your lead judge's rendition when we get to you.
I've been singing it all day, like, oh, I love it. I love it, like, I mean.
Even Saka and Saliba avoiding suspension, with a little booking. Everything went our way. If I could have written a script, it would have been last night. I'm on cloud nine. It makes Monday mornings that much better when you get up and you get dressed and you jump on the train and you see the back page of the newspaper and you see the Arsenal kits on the road and you give that little wireless nod, even though you don't know the guy. We're getting back to where we used to be, man. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. We're relevant again, and a lot of people absolutely hate it in the media. It's funny, Gary Neville. I think Man United might get that second place when City win the league. That was on his latest podcast. It was quite funny, really. I absolutely love it. Keep hating, keep crying, people. It's brilliant to see. We're relevant again, and people hate it. Judges, let's just concentrate first of all on that first half, because it won us the game, let's be clear. But actually, when you look at the individual performances from some, I just thought they were outstanding, mate. That midfield trio, Partey, Odegaard and Xhaka, unreal. Saka absolutely had Sessegnon on toast. Martinelli and Doherty, Eddie and Nketiah, yeah, okay, maybe he should have scored. But everything that he did off the ball was fantastic. Our defence, Saliba and Gabriel, that partnership. Zinchenko had to be one of the man of the match. He was absolutely exceptional in that inverted role that he plays. And of course, we need to mention Aaron Ramsdale. Everyone, Lee, played well. It was hard to pick a player of the match, Lee.
That's what it is like. My voice is still a bit croaky. Sorry, like, maybe from all that singing yesterday. Listen, we was talking about this yesterday. We have not got a weak link in that 11. The weakest link in that team is the squad depth. That's what it is. The actual 11, you cannot find a weakness. And in that first half, it was like it was like that, like, and what was good about it was after 10 minutes. I turned around to my mate, Julian, it was, and I said, we ain't losing this. We're not losing this game. You know what I mean? Like, it was just that good. We were so dominant in that first half. And what it is, if you've never been to the ground, you've been there, Dan, like, I've got to say, it's a fantastic stadium. It is massive. It's massive, you know what I mean? Like, and listen, Tottenham were always up for it in the White Hart Lane when it had 30,000. This has got 60,000. They was up for it. By the half-time whistle, they was all shaking and nervous and everything like that. And that's what we done with that performance. That first half frightened the living daylights out of them, And I have to say, I thought I'd have an early night. I'd go to bed about 11 o'clock. You know what I mean? Get up early.
No chance.
No, 1 o'clock, I'm still awake, wide awake, 2 o'clock in the morning still. Because I'm worried about the game. I can't lie. I'm worried about the repercussions if it all goes wrong. What's this and that? You know what I mean? What a waste of energy and everything like that, because it was so easy in the end, you know what I mean? So I have to say it was a fantastic performance first half. Me going in at half time, everybody on the concourse and in the bars and all that's going mad and everything like that, and I'm going, should be 3 or 4 really, you know what I mean? There's always that worry if they nick a goal, what's going to be like. But I thought in the second half we managed it really, really well, so it was great. Big up to Matt and Adrian, two of my mates that are in the chat. Welcome, lads. Thanks for your support. So I just think it was a real good performance. And do you know what I really liked about the performance was that there was a little bit of pressure going in that game. I don't care what anybody says. There was a little bit of pressure. Because Man City have dropped points on the Saturday. It's not a massive pressure, but it's a different sort of pressure, And then what I liked about it is that we dominated the game in the first half with good football, and then in the second half, over to you, lads, over to you, defenders. You now do your job, and they do it. I think we've got 2 central defenders now, and I say this, and I mean it sincerely now. These are the best 2 central defenders since the Invincibles, since the Adams and Keown partnership. We've had good centre half here, and he was a good centre half or whatever. But we've got a pair, an absolute pair of them, who are fantastic. And I'll tell you this now: Ben White is the best English defender in the Premier League this moment.
Absolutely.
Again, he was outstanding again. Yes, when everything goes down the left-hand side, I don't care. I just know he's going to win a tackle or get something in or whatever. I just think he's outstanding. I really do. I think he's absolutely outstanding at the back there. And I don't know. I'm going to be really honest. If it was planned for him to go right back or not, but if it was, this is a genius at work in Mikel Arteta, because I never see this coming but he is absolutely outstanding. I think he's better than any right back that I've seen this season. You name me a winger that has got the better of him. I'll wait. Not one winger has got the better of him this season and put him on toast. And I think that's fantastic. You talk about probably the only one that have put him on toast maybe is Martinelli. But he plays for us. You know what I mean? So it's great.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, man. And Shuray, what's been really impressive, mate, this season is the partnerships and the relationships. But the kind of departments of this team at the moment just seem to be so gelled. And the understanding is fantastic. I mean, Lee's touched on it there about the partnership with Gabriel and Saliba. I think they complement each other. Ben White deserves a mention. I think he's been under the radar this season as to how consistently good that he's been. I look at what Zinchenko's doing in that inverted role at the moment, and we know now, with Ramsdale in goal to add to that, that we can keep a clean sheet away from home and, to be fair, at the Emirates. So that's been massive this season, Shuray, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was just listening to a Ben White interview. It wasn't one that was shown on the sort of mainstream broadcasters over here. It's one that you have to find on Twitter because it's clearly shown elsewhere. But the question the journalist asked him was, what makes a good dressing room? Because your manager keeps saying that you guys have a good dressing room. And his answer was really telling. He said, look, firstly, I'm not just saying it, we're all mates. We all go in and we enjoy what we do and we spur each other on. But the other thing he said, which we haven't had for years and years, is he said, we know that in pretty much every position, if we don't play well, there's somebody who can start on the bench and we're going to get dropped. It's that competition for places that leads to these improvements in performances and these partnerships really forming, right? Because everyone knows they have to be at the top of their game to impress the manager, and no one is immune from getting dropped. He set that precedent with people like Aubameyang and so forth, and now these boys are really listening. And look, a lot of people would have said and did say Jesus leaving the team could interrupt the chemistry going forward. He gives you that certain something that Eddie doesn't necessarily give. I'm not going to sit here and get into whether he does or he doesn't, but has our chemistry looked interrupted at all going forward? At all, honestly. Every game we've played since, whether it was West Ham, whether it was Brighton, I agree that Newcastle, we perhaps could have got a goal, but it's not like we weren't throwing the kitchen sink at them. And then we looked ridiculously fluid against Tottenham, which is a very, very difficult place to go on Derby Day. Let's not get it twisted. We made it look easy. So I mean, it's exactly what Lee says, that there isn't a weakness in this 11. The only weakness is the longevity that comes with depth when the FA Cup kicks in, if you get to the next round, when Europa League kicks in, and the Premier League starts hotting up, right? And that's why, for me, I really think it's now time that, the fans are extremely grateful to the players and the manager. I think the ownership need to show that same gratitude now and really invest and really, and it doesn't have to be a load of players. It's a sprinkle of quality in the positions that we all know need addressing. And suddenly I think that the Gary Nevilles of this world and all the other doubters might sit there and say, all right, hold on. Maybe I do need to put them up there as favourite.
Fair play, man. Listen, big up Super Kevin Campbell. How you doing, KC?
Kevin,
how you doing, guys? I'll tell you what,
Hey.
I'm a bit upset, by the way.
Go on.
Why ain't everybody smiling? Come on, we won yesterday. Come on.
I have been.
How you doing, Shara? You're right, Lee.
I think we're going to have to have a sit down and have a chat about Eddie, because I thought he could have scored a couple of goals yesterday, but he was sensational yesterday. I've got to say, his work rate, his hold up play, his bravery.
I agree
as well. Like his bravery.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, that Romero is a little snidey little so and so. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but he backed into him. He has gone up a level for me after that game. Like,
well, let's talk about Eddie. Like, Kev, bring you in. It was perfect timing, really, in terms of Eddie, because I mentioned this yesterday. A few people disagreed and said should have been scoring those. Yeah, look, I get it. He could have scored the goal, right? But let's look at his development this season. Let's look at what he's done in 6 months of football that I've seen. His off the ball stuff is so much better. The development is there. You definitely see the strength. I mean, I saw a picture of Instagram of him 3 years ago. Now he's absolutely stacked. So he's been working out on that. He's taking himself seriously. I'm with Lee, Kev. Yesterday, I thought he was good. Everything he did off the ball worked for us.
I thought he done everything bar score yesterday. Yeah. Everything bar score. I was thinking, now we're going to see how good Eddie is, because we're going to need him to be that link player. He's gonna have to battle the three defenders. He's gonna have to get his body in. He's gonna have to link the play. I saw Eddie doing a Jesus making tackles at our right back spot. He was everywhere. I mean, I think he ran himself into a standstill.
Yeah.
Second half, he was tired, which you're gonna get, because let's be honest, he hasn't played a lot of football. But here's the thing for everybody who's doubting: did we look like a team without Jesus yesterday? I don't think we did.
I agree.
And I know Jesus adds a sprinkling of something different, but we didn't look like a team who's missing Jesus. We looked like a team was more than capable of beating a big rival. And it's been, 9 years at their gaff?
Yeah.
And we go there and do that. I think Eddie is instrumental in that, the way he played, the way he led the line, the way he hustled. He put Lloris under huge pressure loads of times, put defenders under pressure. And in the end, when you see them starting to kick him, you know he's doing a job. For me, listen, I wasn't sure whether Eddie could do the job. I'll zip that now. Eddie's doing an absolutely fantastic job. What is that, 4 goals in 5 games? Yeah. That'll do me.
Yeah,
he didn't have to be 10 goals in 10 games. But what he's doing and how the team is performing, nobody has anything to say. Could he do better with the chances? Yeah. But Jesus could do better with a lot of the chances he had as well.
Exactly that.
We keep winning. We got to keep winning, and he's instrumental in helping us.
I was watching him yesterday. Yes, he probably should have scored that second one. I'll tell you what, it was a bad first touch, really. And then
Yeah, it
that
was.
took him away from me. If he gets a better touch on that, there was a couple of times that his touch weren't up to the thing as Jesus. Right, we get that. Right, but Jesus has missed good chances for Arsenal. Right, but he gets a pass. Why? Because he's Jesus. You know what I mean? If Eddie misses a chance, people are on his back. Even like yesterday, going, he should have scored that. He should have done this. Should have done that. I'm in the camp now of looking what other things that he does, and what I see yesterday was a kid. I think I'm going to be really honest about it. He's under pressure. He knows he's under pressure. He's had to come in to replace Jesus. Oh, he ain't good enough to do this, do that, and all that. He's took it on the chin, and he's you know what it's like, Kev. You know what I mean, playing with the Arsenal and having that pressure and coming
Having to prove yourself all the time, yeah.
To prove yourself and win fans over, which is not. Listen, Arsenal are not the easiest fans to win over. If we be honest, you know what I mean. We've got our. We've got our favourites and we've got our standards and preference. You know, that's how it is. But he comes in there, he works his socks off. And for me, I'm going to say it now. I have not said in one game so far, maybe against Newcastle, we've missed Jesus. We're missing. At the moment, like some great things on Instagram that he's kicking the ball about now at Jesus. But he ain't got to rush him back, have we? When we're producing what we're producing. You know, and I just think that, you know, he knows that when Jesus is fit, he's probably not going to be in the sidelight. But I just think his attitude and everything about it is fantastic. And you're right, Kev. Yesterday, he could not walk at the end of the game. And I don't care, being an Arsenal fan, right? I haven't seen that for 5 years. I'm going to be really honest. 5 years ago, with all those players and all that, I'm going to be really honest. I was frustrated about Arsenal. I didn't really like Arsenal players. I didn't really like Arsenal Football Club. That's why I was getting frustrated and all that. But I'm watching people now, some of them very, very good, but someone like Eddie that's prepared to run he can't run no more for Arsenal Football Club. That'll do for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100. Listen, Shroy, let's let you come in on this, man, because, you know, me and you have spoken, and Eddie deserves his flowers, bro.
He looks like he's enjoying his football, which is massive. And part of his attitude sort of came to light in that All or Nothing documentary. I don't know if you guys remember, he was sat at a table with Sambi
Lokonga. Yeah.
And Lokonga isn't smiling. And Eddie says, look, you were happy when you joined. What happened? Lokonga goes, oh, I'm not playing. And I think Eddie's exact words were, stop fucking feeling sorry for yourself. You're not the only one that's not playing, you know? And I like that, a bit of bite about him, because he also wasn't playing. But he understood what it meant and what you had to do to get into the starting 11 at Arsenal Football Club. But now what we're seeing with Eddie is, when I say he's enjoying his football, it's because there was that little moment where he had a little nutmeg and a little dink over the player's head to get round him on the touchline. That's the bit of flair that if Jesus does that, everyone goes, that's what they paid for him for. But we have a Halen boy that's doing it. And for one reason or another, he doesn't necessarily get the plaudits. Maybe it's because he doesn't have a Brazilian name. Maybe it's because we didn't pay a big fee for him. But he's doing incredibly well. The only reason when Lee says we don't need to rush Jesus back, I agree we wouldn't need to rush him back if we do strengthen in that area. But right now we have one recognised striker.
Oh, yeah.
And Eddie has had to play every game in that position this calendar year, as has Gabriel Martinelli. But the issue on the wing is slightly different because you at least have Smith Rowe. Whereas unless we're playing a false nine, there is no other striker at this team, which is why if we don't bring someone in there, then I think Eddie, not necessarily due to ability, but just due to pure burnout. I mean, you said he was off his feet by the end of yesterday. The games are going to come thick and fast, so we do need to help him out.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that's key. We're definitely going to come into that. But KC, before we do that, this midfield trio is the best in the league, mate. Period. Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard. Yesterday, I looked at what Conte was doing, and I want to come on to that in a minute. But blitzed them, mate. In midfield, absolutely blitzed them. You can add Zinchenko to that as well in terms of what he was doing in the play with his build-up, with inverted stuff. I thought all three of them were outstanding, but in particular, Martin Odegaard, mate. I don't think there's a better Premier League player in the league right now, KC.
I think you're right there, Dan. I think, you know, when it comes to our midfield, it's about balance. We needed the right balance, and now we've got the right balance. And they've played, you know, Martin Odegaard was on loan last season, and that's probably helped because he knows exactly what's needed. Then he comes in, he signs, then all of a sudden he could just knuckle down and do what's what. Granit Xhaka, we know that Granit Xhaka's improvement, how he's improved. I thought he was outstanding as well yesterday, but in a nice, quiet way. He moved the ball quickly. He tackled. He headed it. He didn't need to go too crazy, but it was just nice, calm, and sensible on the ball. But if I'm honest with you, I think the catalyst is the holding midfielder in Thomas Partey. He is the key to everything. The way he gets the ball and plays between the lines, gets the ball to Ødegaard, and Ødegaard is he's a lender of the football, but such a fantastic footballer. He's so graceful with his left foot. In tight areas, I think there was once in the first half where the ball got played into him just outside our box. He's turned, he slid it to Partey. He's got the pass back just the other side of the Spurs defender, and he's whipped it out to Martinet. You know, little things like that. Zinchenko does it when he moves into midfield. These guys can get out of problems, and most importantly, Dan, he's coming up with goals now.
Yeah,
goals
massive.
Change everything. You know, for a midfielder, earlier on in the season against Crystal Palace, I remember we spoke and we said, he needs to shoot. You know, he's got a wonderful left foot. He needs to shoot. Well, guys, he's shooting now. And look at him. He's up there for midfielders. I think he's a high-scoring midfielder, isn't he, in the league? Yep. High-scoring midfielder. He's our captain. He works his socks off as well, by the way. He does. And what a player. What an absolute fantastic player to knit our midfield to these strikers. I think, you know what? We need to keep those three fit. Yeah. Because the engine room is so important. Yeah. We need Thomas Partey, we need Xhaka, and we need Ødegaard. Yeah, we do need substitutes there just in case. And you know what? When it comes to the Europa League, we might have to rest a couple of them because we could be going for two things, or, you know, 2 or 3 fronts here. So we're going to have to box a little bit clever with them.
Yeah, 100, man, 100. Lee, let me bring this up from Robert Segal because I think it's important. It says Partey and Xhaka are like the Vieira and Petit. I see Tony Adams the other day mentioning those names as well. Similar comments. Is this the best midfield you've seen since those kind of days? Because we're talking Vieira, Petit, Vieira, Gilberto, and I kind of see it's different, but I kind of see where they're coming there in terms of their partnership and relationship.
Yeah, it's different because football's changed. But like, what I will say on this, and you know what I think of Vieira, you know what I think of all that team. I have not seen that game yesterday, that first 45 minutes. I have not at Brentford. You want to go on, you can go on Chelsea. Where I've not seen Arsenal dominate a game of football like that ever. And that's with the invincible Kevin's 91 team as well. Like, what I say dominate, I mean control. Absolute control. Now people are turning around. I heard them on TalkSport earlier on talking about Tottenham didn't get that first 5-10 minutes. Tottenham come out. Like they started well. Like, you know what I mean. The reason they went back into their shape is because we said right. Yeah, they went back in their shell because we just passed around them and they got scared. It's like a rabbit with headlights. I've not seen a team. And listen, you can go. You know, Kevin will tell you when he's played at White Hart Lane as well. I've never seen an Arsenal team, of all the times that I've been there, where I've sat back after 10, 15 minutes and said, we ain't losing this game. We are not losing this game. And I sincerely say that now. I look back, you know, some great games, 5-4 and all that, like, you know. I'll be honest, I've not seen it. Now, when I look at this midfield, I'm going to say you something now, which you might laugh at me when I say this, right? I think one of the best players I've ever seen play for Arsenal was Robert Perez, right? He would not get into this team. He would not get into this team because of his work rate. You know, they had to put players in there to shift him in and all that, like, you know. That's how good you've got to be now to be into this team. Now, I'm not saying Robert Perez isn't, that Martinelli's not better than him or whatever, but Robert Perez didn't do the dirty work. What I see yesterday from Eddie, from Martinelli, from Saka, from the midfield players, they are prepared to do the dirty work. You know what I mean? Xhaka was prepared to go. You know, let's just talk about Xhaka for a minute. Like, you know what I mean? got criticised and whatever, and we've all been there. But this is a person that was prepared to play left back for the team, prepared to go out of position for the team, whether he thought he was right or wrong. So he's now prepared to run down the left back channel and cover somebody and whatever, like, you know what I mean? Ulegard's the same, you know what I mean? Look at the work rate. Let's have a look at him compared to Ozil. Look at the work rate of him, like, you know. If he doesn't have a good game, I'll tell you what, he puts in a shift. And you can say that about Partey. Partey, like yesterday, you know, I'm going to say this now. If that goal goes into the back of the net, that's the best goal ever in a North London derby. It was sensational. But his control, you know, listen, Kev, you can tell the viewers and everything like that. You know, a North London derby, probably playing in a North London derby, it goes up a notch because it certainly looks like it from
it's hectic. It's just hectic. It's hectic.
But Thomas Partey makes it look easy or slower or whatever, and that is fundamentally something
sign of quality, isn't it? It's a sign of quality.
It's a sign of quality. Exactly that.
Yeah, 100%, man. Listen, Kev, I want to ask you and Sharoy about this because it's something you and I have always kind of agreed with, believe it or not, because me and you have had some debates and disagreements, it's fair to say, over the past couple of seasons. But the togetherness and the stuff that's been done off the pitch, mate, is really starting to show on it now. I mean, I saw at the end of the game, I haven't seen us that together since we won the league at YR Lane. I think it's fair to say it's been absolutely brilliant so far this season. And I saw that at the end there and thought, wow. Now, I have to mention the Ramsdale thing quickly. Obviously, it weren't great. Little bit of a nasty taste in the mouth. And I hope the fan is banned for life. But the togetherness after that was superb to see, KC. And that has been so important going through it. You know, I come back to what Sharoy said earlier about Ben White's interview. We're all mates. We're all in it together. Great interview from what I hear. So that, to me, has really shown this season. And the connect from that, what that does with the fan base, it's just been superb every single game. And it's clear to see, KC, that this is what we all want. We've got our Arsenal back, Kev.
Well, here's what I would say, Dan. From the day one, when Mikel Arteta came to the club, he mentioned there needs to be a connection between the fans and the players. There has to be. Now, it's taken a little bit of time because let's be honest. You know, now you look back at when he first came in. You look back at when he first came in and you look at the personnel that was at the club. It wasn't the right personnel. Those players, there was no connection to the fan base. They wouldn't run through brick walls back then. They wouldn't do the dirty work, Lee. Players back then wouldn't be coming off the pitch absolutely knackered, even if they've had a bad game, just through sheer hard graft. That would not happen. So, Mikel Arteta, this season, everybody said, right, well, this is his team now. And if he's not, you know, here, there, or whatever, he might get the sack before Christmas. Could you remember all that chat? Well, look what we're doing. Look what he's doing. And last season, we saw whenever the team went away on international duty and came back, the team kind of struggled to find their rhythm. We're all over the place. It happened a few times. Actually, that's what cost us 4th place last season. It weren't the Spurs and the Newcastle game. It was the Crystal Palace, the Brighton, and the Southampton game. Those 3 absolutely cost us, or else we would have been gone. But 2 signings came in, Zinchenko and Juice, with that mentality, that winning mentality to help the youngsters. I think the way we lost 4 place last season made a massive difference in the summer. Everybody got their heads together, refocus. We got Saliba back in the back, ready. And this team, you know, you want the team to reflect the fans. This team reflects our fan base in abundance. And just to see the connection. We saw it, remember, we saw it at times last season, Aston Villa away and all that kind of thing. But this season, the connection between the fans and the players, obviously winning games helps and being top of the league helps. But you know, that bond is there now. There's a bit of argy-bargy, and listen, what happened with Ramsdale, that's a disgrace, and that's going to get dealt with 100%. And I think Richarlison's going to be in a lot of hot water as well, by the way. He was
Good.
out of order. But the way Mikel Arteta ran, got Xhaka out, and then all the boys ran up to the Arsenal fans and celebrated with them on enemy territory, I think that is key, this team. And you know what? I still think there's massive room for improvement because the way we played in the first half, we've got to learn to be able to do that. We won't dominate games for 90, but we've got to learn to be that team again for 75 minutes, 80 minutes of 90. We have to be able to do that. When we get to that level, then we're a very dangerous kettle of fish. But
Yeah,
Dan,
absolutely.
It's all Arsenal fans. This is special what's going on because none of us believe we'd be here.
Nah.
8 points clear. Next game, Manchester United home halfway through, where there's massive room for improvement, and we could strengthen the squad. Come on, this is special time. I just hope we strengthen properly.
Yeah, likewise, man. Listen, before we come on to the transfer window that is open, people, Sharoy, let's come to you quick on that because, listen, I listen to you a lot, man, and love what you do, man. And I know that you've always been about the whole removing of the culture. You've been up for what Arteta's been doing. And I think when you look at Ramsdale's performance yesterday and how good that was and how he just kept his head at the end there with that idiot who come on the pitch, and then you see all that togetherness. People have been asking me all season, what do you think now, Dan? Because I've doubted it. Everyone knows I have. What do you think now, Dan? What's changed for you? It ain't, for me, just Zinchenko and Jesus. It's not. That is definitely helped, by the way, and Saliba has as well. This off-the-pitch stuff that was always going on for the last 2.5 years, it's so obvious to everybody, not just Arsenal fans, why that needed to happen. We had to get rid of the Özils, the Aubameyangs, the Mustafis, the Kolasinac's. Now we're seeing everybody together. And I think that's been so key to where we are right now because obviously the players come in, they help. We're playing better football. We've got our players. We've got our attacking style. But actually, all that toxicity has now gone. And that's been key for me, Sharoy.
Hugely instrumental. And I mean, exactly what Kev was saying about having some sort of relationship being forged between the fans and the players. I think the only way you can do that is actually by starting with the players. If Mikel Arteta's team didn't have that chemistry within not just the 11, but the squad, there's no way that you would win games and there's no way you would transmit that cohesion to the fans. So that was the first thing that he addressed, rightly so. And you now look at how that manifests itself on the pitch. I mean, we don't talk about it much because of the fact that the rest of his performance was immaculate. But Thomas Partey in the first half yesterday, he gave the ball away 3 or 4 times, right? In crucial areas of midfield. Either he was the first to recover the ball or Granit Xhaka bailed him out. And when Granit Xhaka bailed Thomas Partey out,
he high-fived him.
Exactly. He was like, don't worry, I've got you, bro. Don't worry. That level of, it's almost like a brotherhood in midfield. And that's something we haven't seen in God knows how long. And I'm very much from the same camp as Lee, where there have been years where I've sort of looked at the Arsenal team and putting the style of football and the results to one side for 1 second, there weren't many personalities that I could necessarily get behind. There weren't many personalities that instilled confidence in me that they were playing for the badge the same way that the players I grew up on did, because that's what I was used to, right? And that seemed to have faded away for a considerable amount of time. And the reason why I'm so happy is it isn't like this happened out of nowhere. Mikel Arteta said it the minute he came in, and it was a gradual plan. The only difference is he can't do what Chelsea are doing, which is I don't need to clear the deadwood because I've got money falling out of my arse, so I can just spend 100 mil whenever I want. He had to clear the wage bill. He had to get rid of destructive personalities. He had to start again. And then he had to recruit not just the right caliber of player, footballing wise, but it's talent ID up here. And that level of research when you bring a player in is priceless. Because right now, I guarantee you there are 3 or 4 players that Arteta could sign that would improve this team in pure footballing terms, but he is not going to do it because they're not the right character fit for this team. He has those non-negotiables, and that's why he constantly talks about identifying the right player. It might frustrate some fans, saying it doesn't matter, we need numbers, we need bodies. But we've seen what that model does. It doesn't necessarily benefit the team in the long run, which is why he deserves huge, huge credit. And what that ends up being is exactly what Lee said. Teams will come out and want to play football. Within 10 minutes, they realise they can't. Listen to Eddie Howe. Listen to Eddie Howe after the Newcastle game. There was all the talk with Eddie Howe for on Match of the Day and on Sky or whatever. They were saying, you guys, sat back, bit of time wasting there, tried to get stuck in. First thing he said was, That wasn't the intention. We wanted a bit more attacking threat than that, but we had to change it after 10 minutes because you saw the way the game was going. So we did it to Newcastle, who are in the top four. We've just done it to Tottenham, who finished above us last year and spent more than us in this window with a world-class manager, retaining their best striker, and we still did it to them. Who's to say that we can't do it to everyone in this league if we can keep people fit?
Mm.
Yeah, fair points, man. Lee,
Dan, I need to say this because
yeah, of course.
I always was banging on years ago, like Old Trafford lost 3 players begrudgingly coming out at the end and thanking you and everything like that, like, you know, and people used to go, oh, what does it matter? Does it matter? Well, yeah, it does matter when you see what you see on yesterday, like the whole team, not just the players, the manager, the coaches, the substitutes, all doing that with the fans. Now, I believe, whether you think I'm stupid or not, right, I contributed an Arsenal winning yesterday as a fan in there, giving it and everything like that. Like, that's how they make me feel now. They make me feel like I'm contributing. I'm part.
You're part
of it, part of the whole shebang. And I felt disconnected. And if I be right about being taken for a ride, taken the piss out of by the club over so many years, you know what I mean? Like spending my money, going up to games, not being appreciated. And that is the thing. And I've criticised Mikel in the past, but if I were to say what makes you change your mind about it, he has done that for me. As a manager, he has got me connected back with Arsenal Football Club and players. Now, I don't know any of those players from Adam, right? And you know what? Some part of me don't want to, because you don't want to criticise them or whatever, like, you know what I mean? But at the end of it, I was talking to Dan, my mate Dan, not Dan, but another Dan today about it. 5 years ago, right? Put a name on your shirt. Who are you going to go for? It was hard work. I'd rather keep it blank.
Put your own name on it. Put your own name.
Put your own name on it or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, judge forever, like, you know. So, but now, like, I would like to have, I could have any name on that back. If someone bought me a shirt, right, and just imagine, like, years ago, oh, Kevin, your nice birthday present, like, you know what I mean? And I had Ozil on the back, or, oh, really happy with it. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, now you could give me anybody, any one of those players, and I'll be happy with it. Like, you know, I don't care that I love them all. Every single one of them is fantastic. You know what I mean? And if you push me to say on it, I don't know. You know, Martinelli, you know what I mean? But I would probably be the one. But I'm loving Ben White now. I think it could be the number 4 shirt for Ben White now. I don't know, you know what I mean? And next week it'll be someone else. That is what they've done to me and all that. And I don't care what anybody says. 2 or 3 players, and I don't know if you remember, like Mertesacker trying to force Ozil to come and
City away.
Right, yeah. Now the whole shebang were there celebrating. I don't care if it over-celebrated or not. They were celebrating in front of us. I've got Aaron Ramsdale's dad above us when they're all singing Aaron Ramsdale's song, and he's leading it. That is what this football club is about. That's why I love this football club. And yesterday, not because we've beaten Spurs, that's great. It's back. You've got, like, players' dad leading songs.
Togetherness.
It's unreal, like, you know what I mean?
Unbelievable. Judges, it's 21:42 on Monday, the 16th of January, bruv. And I'm going to tell everybody this now. I am so glad that we didn't get Antonio Conte. And I was one that wanted him. I did. I wanted him. I really wanted him. I really like him as a coach. And I still think, by the way, that he has got a world-class CV, etc. But my God, he is absolutely clueless at times. And it would be hypocritical of me to say, pointing the blame at the manager under Arteta, saying, what's he doing? And then saying it's the players. Because let's be fair, they have got some good players at Tottenham. And he got it all wrong yesterday, Lee. He got it all wrong, Conte, for me. So I wanted to come to you with this one. Apparently it's Levy's fault, yeah, Ninik's fault and all that. But listen, you can see why what we needed to do is now being replicated, or would like to be replicated, by the likes of Ten Hag United. Chelsea are going to need to do it, even though they ain't going to do it. That's what they're going to need to do it. They're going to need to start again. Now, Conte is a win-now manager. the worst appointment for Tottenham. It was a last. It's basically, I'm going to have to do this because there's nothing else. We've tried everything else. Tried Mourinho, tried a CV,
Desperation.
tried Pochettino.
Desperation.
Desperation. This is Conte now. When I looked at it, I thought, that's a fairly ambitious signing, you know. Antonio Conte at Tottenham. Now looking back, nah, man, they were in desperation. They were needed something. So I said last season, the only reason they got top 4 is because of him. I stand by that, by the way. I stand by it. I think it was. He definitely wouldn't have got him. I don't believe Nuno would have had Tottenham in the top 4. They looked like they were going 12th, 13th, right? So I still believe he's a quality manager. But the style of football, the fact that everyone's had enough of him at the club now, it looks like it's just a toxic relationship already, judges.
Well, listen, the great thing about football, Dan, the great thing about football is you can change your mind. You can change your opinion. You know what I mean? Like I thought Conte was, when he first come in, I thought, oh no, this is going to be it and all that. And listen, there was a lot of Arsenal fans, you know, like Magic Mike turned around and said he's going to be a disaster. Do you remember? Like,
yeah,
and I thought,
I remember. And I think, what's he talking about?
Yeah, what's he talking about? You don't know what you don't want about. We're wrong. We're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, he's not good for Spurs, and he certainly wouldn't be good for Arsenal. Like, you know what I mean? And for me, you know, you just got to roll your hands up and say, look, you know, we've got that one wrong.
100.
I'm loving what I'm seeing in there at the moment. Like, I'm
I hope
loving
he stays, by the way.
I am loving it that Spurs fans giving him a free ride and all that. Like, you know, I actually speaking to one of my Spurs mates yesterday. He never learned. You know, when you say like learning your lessons, you know, when we're not learning our lessons in the transfer window or whatever. He's gone to the Emirates, played 2 in midfield against our 3, who was very, very good by the way, and got smashed. Right. So you think like what you do. Oh, I'll do it again. I won't do that again, and he does. Now I look at someone like the Man United manager Ten Hag, play against Man City. What's he do? Brings an extra.
Puts Fred on De Bruyne man to man.
And all of a sudden they could have lost that game, could have won it, different decisions and all that, right? But respected the opposition and went, you know what I mean? And I always go about Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson went 4-4-2 every single game, apart from 2 games a season when he played against Arsenal. You know, it didn't mean to say that he was weak manager, or it didn't mean that. He's just smart. And for whatever, like, I'm sitting there in an interview on Match of the Day yesterday because I don't ever listen. Oh my God, I never listen to Conte anyway, but it's so boring anyway. But anyway, he's talking about Brighton. He's talking about Brighton. You know what I mean? Like the competition's Brighton and Fulham. Oh, sign a contract, please, Conte. Sign away. I'll give you a pen or whatever. Sign it. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. He's talking like that, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they're in the mud because of him, but it's all Levy's fault.
It's all Levy. It's all Levy. Sure. I wanted to ask you because obviously you've had your opinions on manager and process and the board, etc. And this has just been a disaster. And I just want to concentrate quickly on Tottenham because I mentioned it earlier with you, brother, and I was shocked, mate. I was shocked to see Sessegnon ahead of Perisic, Pape Mate Sarr coming instead of Bissouma. He went, like Lee said, with the same formation. Son, by the way, has just dropped off a cliff. He looks absolutely half the player that he's ever been at Tottenham. Kane, they've chained him to a radiator. He wants out. It's just a disaster, and it's beautiful to see, Sheree.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? It really is. But the only way I can describe it is having Antonio Conte at Tottenham is kind of like getting the brand new 4K Skybox, but not buying an HD TV with it, because you need to give Conte exactly what he needs for you to actually realize what you have, and they weren't going to do that. But I want to park that argument for a minute, because notwithstanding all of that, they finished above us last year. They spent more than us in the window. They retained Harry Kane. They brought in their elite world-class manager. How on earth has that manifested in us being 14 points ahead with a game in hand at this point of the season? At this point of the season. Now, when Tuchel was managing Chelsea towards the end of that tenure, they were saying it was getting sour, but they said, yeah, but look at the players he's got. He's got to get a bit better out of them. They're saying the same about Potter now. They said the same about Arteta. Even though this was his first managerial job, they said the same in that horrible dark November where we couldn't buy a win. They've said the same about a lot of managers. Why is it that Antonio Conte doesn't have that leveled at him, but can go into press conferences and say, well, Arsenal and City, they're challenging for the title. I'm not too upset about the performance, but we have to work with what we've got. We've got a few injuries. They're the better team. We're not at that level. Well, why aren't you, mate? Why aren't you? It's inexcusable. If that was my manager saying that, I'd be infuriated. Absolutely infuriated. If I'm looking at a front three of Kane, Son, and Kulusevski, where Son is the Golden Boot winner last year, and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but beginning of the season, I looked at their window and I thought, shit, we're in for it. There's some good signings there. Richarlison, I thought, was a fantastic signing. I thought Jed Spence was a player that we could have used, because I didn't realise that Ben White was a world level right back at the time. There were a number of signings they made. Basuma, a lot of Arsenal fans were pissed off they got Basuma because we wanted adequate cover in that area. Well, there you go. He's ruining careers.
It'd be different in our team, mate. It'd be different in our side. I'll tell you that much.
This is the difference. Mikel Arteta has progressed players. Antonio Conte has regressed them. That's the only way I can summarise it.
Listen, I think you're talking facts, Roy.
Let's look at last season, Dan. Let's look at last season at their place. 6 months later, which is virtually now, a few more, 6-7 months later, the swing is too big, Sharoy. The swing is too big. We can't go from getting absolutely smashed 3-0 and there was a difference in personnel. This is what we can say. To now, we are 8 points clear at the top, 14 clear of Spurs. They've got a stronger squad, and we've got a stronger team out there this time. They've got the world-class manager. We've got a manager learning on the job. Remember, we've got a man learning on the job.
They had the benefit of a transfer window being in the Champions League. You are meant to attract a much better caliber of player when you have that, Paul. We didn't have that.
100%. But Sharoy, here's my point. We look at Spurs and their players, their team, and we look at Arsenal. You would think, if you look at Arsenal and you look at Spurs, you would think this Arsenal side have been together for 5 years. You would think that. You look at Spurs, you wouldn't think they'd been together for 5. You'd think they'd been together. This is the first season they've played together because they looked out of sorts. But this is why the coaching staff, the system, and the recruitment has been crucial to Arsenal. They've got Richarlison on the bench. They paid 60 million for him. We don't even have a striker on the bench. Do you understand what I'm saying? And people, they talk about Arsenal this and Arsenal that. No, they've got the stronger squad on paper, but the game ain't played on paper. And Lee, just to let you know, and you, Dan, you mentioned about why did they play that system. If they play an extra man in midfield, they get battered. Why? Because we kill them down the flanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
And that's what they couldn't afford. That's why they couldn't afford, because our fullbacks will double up and we'll just go on the outside, 2v1s all the time, and we'll kill them on the flanks. That's why Kulusevski plays at home. They need to take the game to us as well. They need to make us worry about them. And let's be honest, they started all right. But we're just the better team. It's that simple. We're the better team, and the better team won. We have been the best team in the league by 8 points. Let's be honest. We've been the best team in the league by 8 points. So going to Spurs and beating them, it doesn't matter who they played. It doesn't matter. We would have won that game yesterday because we're just the better team.
Yeah, I agree.
100, man. I agree with that. Listen, boys, I want to get your quick predictions going into United before I touch on the last thing before we close. I've got to say it, Ten Hag deserves a lot of praise. I think to do this quick turnaround as well, like in his first full season, the start they had as well against Brighton and Brentford, I thought, wow, United are completely out of this top 4 race, let alone a title challenge. They've got themselves right back into it. He's got the best out of a lot of the players, and I think they're going to be tough. You know, Paul Merson said it, didn't he, in his punditry, that he thought that would be the tougher game as opposed to yesterday's. Might as well start with you, KC. What's your thoughts going into this United game, bruv?
Yeah, it's a tough game. I think, listen, if I'm honest with you, and no disrespect, they played us, they got a big break. They played City, they got a big break. Massive break to get them back. Still got to win the games though. So fair enough, they won the games. I think it's going to be a different kettle of fish at our place. I think they're a good side. We have to defend properly. And we do concede at home, but we also score a lot of times at home. We're going back to the Emirates after beating Spurs. This is a game we've got to win. We've got to beat them at home. And I think we will beat them. It's going to be tough, but they're a good side. They are a good side. I just think we're better. I think at their place, we outplayed them for a long period, but we didn't have our shooting boots on. So we're going to need our shooting boots on at the Emirates. And if we got our shooting boots on, we will win the game. I'm convinced about that. 1-2-1, 3-1. I think Arsenal would win.
Love the optimism, man. Shroy, what's your thoughts?
I think Ten Hag is doing a great job, but I don't mean this in any sort of condescending way, but if you can spend £95 million on a winger in your first season, and you can bring in a Champions League winning Casemiro for that sort of fee at that age and pay him what he needs, and bring in Lisandro Martinez and get the approval to get rid of Ronaldo. I mean, he's had a very. I know a lot of United fans complain about their board and their hierarchy or whatever, but I think they've very much given Ten Hag a pretty solid first year in terms of the tools. I think Arteta's first window was what? I think you got Cedric and Mari, something
Yeah,
along those
that was
lines.
it, yeah.
I mean, it's very, very different to a record signing in Anthony, right? But that being said, they're doing very well. I know I'm probably sound a bit salty, so I'll stop, but they're doing very well. I do think that I need to get out of this mentality of going into big games thinking, oh, but what if this goes wrong or what if that goes wrong? Because within 5 or 10 minutes of the game starting, all of that goes away, and I realize that we just play the same bloody way against everyone, and we look good doing it. So if we don't have any fresh injury concerns over the course of the week in training or whatever, I think that we will have to learn from what happened at Old Trafford. We know that they will try and hit us on the break, and they're not necessarily a free-flowing team, but they can be devastating within 3 or 4 seconds. No one exemplifies that more than Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, who will no doubt be playing and no doubt try and do exactly what they did before. Difference is, we now have Thomas Partey playing in that position.
Absolutely.
And Thomas Partey is one of those guys. I mean, tell me if I'm sort of overstating this, but he can handle the midfield by himself at times. He genuinely can.
Yeah.
Against 2 or 3 on the break, he has a way of just mopping that up and letting everyone else do what they have to do. We also have very quick defenders who can track back if required. I think it'll be a tight game, but for this one, I'm going clean sheet again. I'm going 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Love it, man. Love it. Lee, Kev will know because me and my dad went and saw him. We were there at Old Trafford and we were disappointed. I mean, I chat about it the next day, but I kind of feel with Sharoya, we've got Thomas Partey back. Our midfield looks better. And as far as I'm concerned, mate, at the Emirates, this could be a different story. I do get the point that Rashford's on fire and Ten Hag deserves a lot of credit. Casemiro's been superb. But I am quietly confident, Lee. What about yourself?
Yeah. I didn't really hear a lot too much. I just got bloody cramp in my leg.
I could see it. I thought you had. Getting old, mate. Come on, what's going on, bro?
Oh my God! Have you ever had that? Just sitting here and it's just like right in the middle of the hamstring, Oh. But anyway, I hope Thomas Partey don't get that. I'll tell you, I'm worried. But no, listen, Man United, I think have got to be feared. I will say this: they've beaten teams that they should have done, apart from Man City. I think if you look back at the City game, a couple of things there. I think first of all, going to have to give him credit because I felt Rashford was injured. I'm thinking, what's he doing playing him like? You know what I mean? Because I wanted when Man City scored, I'm desperate for Man United to equalise. I didn't think they was gonna. You know what I mean? And it was a real contentious goal, as we know, but. Give them credit for where credit's due. When it went 1-1, I wanted that's it. I didn't want them to go and score and make it 2-1, but they bloody well
stick.
You know what I mean? Stick on that, but they did. So they're going to go in there with confidence. And all I'm hearing at the moment is, Casemiro's great, and he is. I'm not saying that he's not. You know what I mean? 60 million they paid for him, by the way. You know what I mean? And that's without his wages. You know what I mean? For a 30-year-old. So, that is an unbelievable thing in your first season to get, to force the ball or take the ball like, that's who I want, and go out and get, I mean, they've got Anthony on the bench that's coming on, like, they've got a very, very good young winger who come on and change the game for them, if I'll be honest. But everybody keeps going on, oh, Rashford's on form and all that, like, well, so Saka, he's on fire. So's Martinelli on fire, like, you know what I mean? And so's Odegaard, you know what I mean? So I don't fear no one. I don't fear no one in this league, like, you know what I mean? I can't wait until we bring up Manchester City. But before that, we've got to do a job on Manchester United. And I think we will, because we're at home and I fancy us against anybody. And, Manchester United will have their bits of play and all that. But I do believe that, we don't get enough credit for what we do, like that. I mean, I'll tell you this now, and I'll ask this sincerely: who do you want? Who, if you got a choice, Rashford or Saka, who are you going for?
Saka.
There you go. There you go. So we've got better players than them. You know what I mean? Like Thomas Partey, Casemiro.
We've got the tools.
They've got the tools. Exactly that. Like
we've got the tools.
I look at Casemiro, and I think he's been one. I've always said he's a good player, like, you know what I mean. But he's coming up against Thomas Partey now. It's a different animal to playing everybody else, like. And I'll tell you this now. I thought that Rodri run the show at Old Trafford, not him.
He was incredible. Rodri was incredible.
He did.
Yeah, he was.
He ran it. You know what I mean. So let Thomas Partey run it, and there may be trouble.
They play Thursday night. They've got Palace Thursday as well. We've got the week off. Right?
Yeah, they've got
Patrick, Thursday, isn't it?
Thursday is Man City Spurs.
Yeah, they've got Wednesday night. Physical. Go on, Patrick. Give a bit of physical. It's never easy going over the south of the wall. You know what it's like going across here. It's not easy.
South London, bandit country, mate.
Bandit country, South London.
Bandit country, mate. I'm telling you.
Don't want to mess with those old boys over there. I tell you, like.
Listen, to close, boys. Just quickly, Casey. Thoughts on the Mudryk to Chelsea stuff and what you think will happen in the coming weeks at Arsenal? We need to get some players in, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Look, on the Mudryk situation, listen, I trust Edu and Mikel. I do. I trust them. They had a price. They were trying to get it agreed. But we all knew Shakhtar wanted big money. They wanted 100 million euros. And we weren't willing to go there. So they were gonna accept our deal. And then Chelsea come up and said, right, we'll pay you the 100. And obviously made Mudryk a deal he couldn't refuse. So I've got no worries about that, Dan, if I'm honest with you. This is a young man, talented that he is. He hasn't played 40 games for his team. He's not played 40 games. We've got lads who play wide, Saka and Martinelli in our team, who've been playing season after season after season now. They've got the games, they've got the experience. And if you sign him for that sort of money, would he get in our team?
But he ain't getting in there at the moment.
Would he get in our team? So, and he's not fit because they've been on a break. So how is he going to really help us? I like the way we stick to our guns. We do need bodies though. And I'll be honest with you, unlike last January, I think this January is far too important now for what we want to do. We're top of the league for a reason. We do look a little bit light on the bench. We need some power on the bench. We need some marquee names. Go out, get the business done. I think we would need 3 players minimum, and go and get the 3 players if you can. So strengthen us for the assault for the second half of the season, because I think this squad and this team could do something special this season. I really believe that.
Yeah, listen, I think you're talking facts, and I don't know who those 2 or 3 players are going to be, but I agree with you. I think, I'll come to you, Sharoy, on this, right? When we heard about the Mudryk thing, I think every Arsenal fan would be lying if they weren't a little bit disappointed. But the difference is, it wasn't, oh my God, we're not going to sign Mudryk. It was, bloody hell, Chelsea. That's the difference. If we're talking about Bellingham or even Declan Rice, I'd be really peeved. I'd be like, bloody hell, they can come in and do a right job. Now Chelsea nicked him. I don't really feel devastated by Mudryk. Why? I don't really know the player. I've seen bits of him in the Champions League. He's played 30 games and he looks like Messi on YouTube. But to be fair, Mustafi looked like Cannavaro on YouTube. So you've got to be real. Like, he could go on and be fantastic for Chelsea. And maybe he will be. But I still don't think it is window over, doom and gloom. We're 8 points clear. And if we do the right business, Sharoy, we should still be all right, bro.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I agree with Kev as well in that I trust Arteta and Edu. And the thing is, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. If this is Arteta and Edu saying, look, I wanted the player, but I don't think he's worth that, and that's going to be to the detriment of the culture in this team or the transfer window that we think we can have, then so be it. But I will be frustrated if Arteta was saying, look, if it's only this much more, can you go get him, please? And the owner said, nah, sorry, we're not doing that. Because I think Arteta's built up enough goodwill now so that he should be able to command signings, particularly when they could be the players that get you over the line to your first league title in a very, very long time. That being said, we don't need £100 million player at all to make wholesale difference to our team. And I say that because how many Arsenal fans were giving standing ovations to Arteta and Edu when they heard about being linked to Aaron Ramsdale, or when they heard about being linked to Ben White for 50 million? You know, there are a number of signings where you could see the fan base going, really? But they've absolutely transformed not just the culture at the club, but on what we see on the pitch. And that's where that trust comes from. So I'm not necessarily after the big money signing. And if Chelsea want to come and blow teams out of the water with that kind of money, then so be it. But the reality is, when you cultivate the kind of atmosphere that we have in our fan base now and at our club, and we're showing that we haven't got there yet, but we're competing for the major honours, that for the right caliber of player with the right mentality will be bigger than any pull. And that's exactly what Arteta wants. You know? So look, I'm not too concerned as long as there is a plan B, as long as we're not left in the same position that we were in last January, because last January we left far too much to chance. We left far too much to chance there. And then we picked up the injuries with Tierney and Partey, and it was done. You know, a lot of us didn't want to admit it, but when those guys went down, we knew we were in trouble. And I don't want to lose out on the Premier League title for anything that's within our control. I don't mind if you lose out with something that's out of your control. If Man City go on a 17-game winning run and put 4 past absolutely every team and they just pip you, so be it. We went.
You could take that, can't you? You could take
exactly,
that.
Exactly. But I cannot take it if we don't address areas that we've been talking about addressing, not just for one window, but a fair few now. You know, this is our chance. The owners need to take that chance. And as I say, Arteta, Edu, and most importantly, these players, they've built up the goodwill and the gratitude. They deserve that reward to make their job a little bit easier. So Martinelli, Saka, and Eddie don't have to play 94 minutes week in, week out. They deserve to be able to have 10 or 15 minutes off when they've given their heart for the team, you know? And that's what rotation players can do.
Mate, I absolutely talking facts for me, and I'm with you. And I think, Lee, lastly, Stan Kroenke, Josh Kroenke, the board, Edu, they need to now get together and say, right, what is it that we need to win this title? And I'm with Sharoy. If we don't see that and we see another, nothing's happening, we don't really think the right fit is out there, we ain't really got the money to spend that much on it, and we get nobody in the door, and it goes wrong, then again, they're going to be fingers pointed at them. And I really don't want to see that happening. We saw in last January, how wrong it was not buying anybody. Let's forget that one. We have to go and get players. If we've got 75 to 90 million sitting there for Mudryk, if you have to go and put in, Premsy come up with a great shout yesterday. Ruben Neves, 35 million. He's at Wolves. He can't be happy there. Holding midfielder, Premier League proven, 35 million or so. Go get him. Look at what you can do wide if you still want a wide player. Tielemans is that guy as well. Zaha, Trossard both being mentioned. Some of the other names, I think the Declan Rices, Milinkovic, Savic, I think they're all summer moves, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
But for me, you can definitely look at us having a bit of money and doing some business. So what would you like to see happening, Judge?
What? Just a couple of bodies. That's all I want to see. I'm not worried who it is. I'm going to be really honest. Like Mudryk, I don't really know too much about him, but what I would say about that is it seemed to me that Arteta wanted him, and if Arteta wants him with the signings that he's done in the past, I'm happy whatever he does. What it does tell me is that if they're prepared to spend 70, 80 million pound on this player, then there's money there. That's gone now. The myth of it all now, they've tried to get Vlahovic last season for 60, 70 million, the money's there. Now for me, I'm with you earlier. If we lost Jesus on February the 1st, I could be a little bit peeved, but he was down on the December the 4th. You know what I mean? So we've not, we've gone to Spurs. We've got away with it without having a backup striker there. Now, Eddie ran himself into the ground to the 84th minute. He can't keep doing that. Can't keep doing that. So they've got to get some couple of players in. I only think we need two. I only think we need two. Someone that can come in. I'm not even say for the Premier League game, just say, right, okay, we've got the Europa League now, which we still want to do well in, by the way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rescue Gabriel Martinelli, blah, blah, and bring in these players. At this moment in time, if we're going to go into the FA Cup game, let's just be honest about the Man City game in the FA Cup. We're going to have to play our first team, right, and maybe go out anyway, right, and tire us out, or we go in the reserve team and we're going to go out. And that's going to happen in the Europa League. And we cannot go on two fronts and maintain what we're doing. Because what I see yesterday with the work rate and all that is physically impossible. It's physically impossible. So you're going to have to bring in some enforcement. And do you know what the key thing about it is? We're all saying it, and so's Mikel. Mikel has actually come out and said that, this squad needs strengthening. He has come out and said that. So, if they don't do it, it's scandalous if they don't do anything this time right. You know what I mean? It really is, you know what I mean? And I know we say about Conte winning the fifth. If Conte doesn't sign those two players last season in January transfer window, they don't get top four. They got top four because they refreshed the squad and had a couple of quality players. Learn a lesson from last season. Learn a lesson from January. We have an opportunity. I don't care what anybody says. 8 points go with 2 weeks left of the transfer window. 8 points in front. You can buy 5 players next season, right? In the summer. You might not be 8 points clear coming into January and all that. The opportunity is now. Opportunity knocks now.
Knocks. Yep.
It knocks. Go through 100%. The door. Open it.
100%. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Absolutely great stream. Fantastic show. KC, big up, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you come straight over from Hybrid Squad. Make sure you go and check that out, people. Hybrid Squad had Vic Akers.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that now.
Great watch. Absolutely superb. And Kev, you can go and relax and chill out now, bro.
And listen, I was battling gremlins over there. I was in and out like I was doing the okey-cokey over there, mate.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi. What's all that about, man?
No. What do you mean my Wi-Fi? I'm on air all the time, no problem. I'm on there. It's that LA Wi-Fi. I don't know what's.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
No, it was all right on here, but on there it was not. So
between us, you know what I mean, right? Sophie gives it the large, you know what I mean. Like when she's on that Tottenham thing, right? I'll give it, I bummed them up a little bit, but when it come to it, I backed my team and said Arsenal will win. She went for a draw.
She went for a draw.
Sophie.
Probably too. Sophie
went for a Desmond. She went for a Desmond. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, listen, we'll see her because she's, I believe, coming to United game. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. Listen, Sharoy, got a big up to yourself, man. Thank you so much for jumping on, bro.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was, as I said,
been brilliant, mate. Been brilliant.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you, man.
It's always a pleasure sharing a platform with you guys, and of course, a pleasure meeting Kev for the first time, albeit virtually, man. It's an absolute honor. So hopefully, the first of many.
Nice absolutely, man. You're always welcome on. Yeah, absolutely. Judges, enjoyed that, mate, as ever.
Yeah,
great one.
As ever, like that. I mean, look, Sophie's here.
She ain't denying
it, though, is she?
I'm listening.
Desmond, Sophie, let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like,
Desmond Sophie. Listen, people, do us a favor. Thank you all so much for joining us. Make sure you smash a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. And we will see you next time. We will be building up to the great game that will be at the Emirates. Arsenal versus Man United. Take care, people, and up the Arsenal. Laters.